It's duly 7 o'clock, so I will open the meeting of the Community Craft Centre Management Committee held here at Cheltenham Parish Council of Wednesday the 12th of May 2026 at 7 p.m. As Chair, I'm going to make a statement at the start of this meeting. It refers, you've all got a copy of the minutes. It refers to an item that was brought up by a member of the public, item number 4 under the closed session at the last meeting. Both the clerk and I would like to offer our sincere apologies for the hurt felt by comments made previously. This situation should have been resolved when it occurred. At the last meeting of this committee, my words were equally inadequate, and I now wish to redress that situation. Being taken by surprise at the time is not in itself an adequate explanation. What I had intended was to take time to properly consider the matter and determine the most appropriate next steps.
Why are they not true?
Muffys, can we keep on?
Yeah, you did.
However, my words at that meeting did not convey that clearly, and for that I personally apologise. As Chair of the Cheltenham Community Craft Centre Management Committee, I would also like to offer a wholehearted apology on behalf of this committee and the council to the lady from our community who has mobility issues, regarding the way she was spoken about by a former councillor when signage and the car park use was being discussed. This should never have happened, and it should have been addressed far sooner than today. For that, we are deeply and humbly sorry. She is a valued member of our community, a resident, and above all, a human being who deserves to be treated with dignity, courtesy, and respect at all times. As a council, we must hold ourselves to those standards, and where we fall short, it is right to acknowledge it openly and sincerely and apologise. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any apologies for tonight?
No.
No apologies? No. Okay. Item 3 on the agenda, any declaration of personal and prejudicial interest or requests.
That's Mark's one. I gave you all of your papers. There should be here somewhere. Sorry, Chair.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair.
That's okay. I'll repeat. Item 3 on the agenda. Is there any declaration of personal and prejudicial interest or requests?
No.
No? Thank you. So at this point, I will close the meeting for questions from the members of the public. Please.
First of all, thank you for heartfelt and genuine apology And I do appreciate that, and I will pass that on to the elderly resident. But I would like to place the following statement on record. Both as a resident and a councillor-elect chosen by a clear majority of this parish. I represented a much-loved elderly resident, now nearly 96 years old, has had her mistreatment by members of this council raised on her behalf by another resident. This matter has been brought to the council 6 times over a period of 15 months, and each attempt has been ignored. The issue is not only the unacceptable way this elderly resident was spoken about, but equally, as if not more serious, is that no councillor present ever challenged the behaviour of the people that spoke those words. And it isn't just the former councillor, it's an existing councillor as well. No councillor has challenged the behaviour, despite the council's own civility and respect pledge. It requires councillors to call out unacceptable conduct when they witness it. The collective silence was a breach of that pledge. I understand the chair of this committee offered the apology, and again, that heartfelt and really appreciated. Thank you for that, Sue. But I don't believe that a committee level apology is sufficient, because what happened to that lady happened in full council. This matter concerns the conduct of councillors, and therefore it must be addressed at full council in view of all elected members and the public. Addressing only at the committee level risks minimising the seriousness of what occurred. Instead of addressing these multiple failures, some councillors have chosen to use those that are highlighting those failures as a weapon. When members of the public question failures, rather than using their energies on trying to look at those failures, they will use their energies to blame the residents and those that are raising the issues. This reflects a very troubling pattern. When confronted with disrespectful conduct or governance failures, responsibilities are avoided, deflected, and shifted onto the very residents performing the scrutiny that the public office requires. Scrutiny is not hostility, it is a democratic safeguard. Therefore, I request from the councillors, will the mistreatment of the elderly resident be brought before the full council rather than being confined to a committee where not all councillors are present?
If I was the chair then, as we can't do a formal proposal, it's not on the agenda, that suggests voting for a recommendation to full council to put it as an agenda item.
Okay, so you may have heard the advice from the clerk there, that we can vote as a because it's not on the agenda. It was a statement you started, and then you've now got a proposal. We can't put that to the vote here this evening, but what we can put is the recommendation that it be put to full council.
Okay, I appreciate that. And also asking the individual councillors here, and it will be asked on full council, if it does go to full council, of what steps will individual councillors take to ensure that they do not remain silent again when civility and respect pledge requires them to intervene.
I'm happy to say personally that I will challenge.
Thank you.
It's a big learning curve. It needs to be done appropriately, but at the same time, it is equally appropriate to challenge any behaviour of any person in this room. So, you know, for me, yes, I didn't say anything on that night. I was absolutely appalled, and possibly the shock of what was said stunned me. So
It's a lesson learned.
it is,
It was all of it.
Thank you.
and I promised that I will challenge inappropriate behaviour wherever it comes from within the walls of
Appreciate
these
that.
meetings.
I agree with that as well. I'll be the same. I think that this is dragged on for 15 months, and I think that that's at least 14 months too long. It should have been dealt with there and then.
Thank you.
And people should have said something and stood up against fellow councillors and challenged that bad behaviour.
Thank you.
I agree. It should have been pulled out.
Thank you.
Could somebody propose that this is put as a, to full council, yeah?
Oh,
And
that's
a
brilliant.
second. Show of hands, please.
Silence is deafening.
Any other questions?
Yeah, for the record, the silence from those who didn't speak, I know Sue nodded, so that does that silence mirrors that lack of respect, or?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't know. I know Sue saw you nodding.
I think since I've been a councillor, I think there has been a lot more challenging of some of the behaviour. Probably not enough, but I think it has started to move in that direction. And I offer my apologies. Sue knows what I felt, and also there was a few councillors that wanted to come and bring a card or flowers or as an apology for you.
Well, it's not for
and
me.
it was, and
it's,
it's well,
yeah.
but we are challenging that behaviour.
I don't think it's appropriate to seek further comments on that at this moment in
Okay
time,
then.
if you don't mind.
So, public just draw their own conclusions from that silence then.
I'd also advise councillors, and I know some councillors have done this, but if you don't feel like it's appropriate, or you've taken back and you reflect after a meeting and you don't think something was above board, you can also report it to the monitoring officer and also speak to me, and we can re-look at any training that needs to happen or give the code of conduct back out. So sometimes I understand that councillors may not want to say something at that time. It can be quite difficult to address it in that particular moment, so there's other ways around it as well.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I was just going to comment along those lines, saying at some of the incidences, I've only really seen Melanie speak up and perhaps one other councillor, and everybody else has remained silent. And however good that is, it's for everybody to join in and call down bad behaviour.
I think I might like to add something, if you don't mind. From my perspective, being a frequent recipient of bad behaviour, I feel that it's becoming normalised. And when I reflect on that later, when I'm taking the matter further, I realise that it is being normalised by both sides. And then I find that even more upsetting. And I think the councillors whose fault that is should have that pointed out to them. And whatever you do about councillors who say I didn't like that and refer them to the monitoring officer, remember that we won't know that's been done. And that damage endures. It's a bad reflection on all of Cheddleton Parish Council, all of the time. None of us like, I'll tell you this, last Thursday, all of us who were there at Chris's and Gary's counting session, we were actually having a joke with Mark Trillo about it, about being his pen friends, because we write in and we complain so often, and he was joking back with us.
I'm not going to comment on the appropriateness of humour in that circumstance.
It was black
However-
humour, to be fair.
Well, equally possibly inappropriate. However, I hear what you're saying, and we can move and work together. There's new faces on board now, and this is perhaps not the remit of this meeting, but there could be fresh breath on the table.
I would like to say, a lot of parks and councillors across the country have been struggling for a few years now since the law change, and monitoring officers have had everything taken off them that they can do towards a councillor in office. We have got our fingers crossed for the King's Speech, that tide is changing. There is stuff going on at London to try and change the rules and regulations, and it looks like it's coming into force. I've had a meeting with the president of SLCC regarding it, because I don't think it's right how everyone is treated on both sides, and I am a big supporter of it, so we've just got to keep our fingers crossed that change can happen, so more strict rules can come into place.
When does that come in?
Who's making it tomorrow?
It's tomorrow. The King's Speech is tomorrow, and we're all waiting on the edge of our seats for what he's going to say.
If he's got the Prime Minister.
Well, we're waiting on the edge of the seat about that one.
Yes, sir.
Just linked in with some of that. So you've got quite new councillors, you know, I know Steve was last sort of October last year, and then 4 new ones. And there's no training as such, no awareness of how you should behave in this environment. You know, I don't know how many councillors sitting around the table have had anything in terms of, you know, you're in the public view and this is what's expected of you. And I was quite surprised when Steve came onto the council. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing in terms of, all he's got is other councillors to learn off, and that might not be so great if that's the example.
Can I come back to you on that one? Because
I'm just thinking about the away day that you've been
I
mentioning.
was just about to refer back to that, because it was me that suggested that that be deferred for a decision on a date until the due election process for both Wetley Rocks and Cheddleton Ward had completed, so that it was an all-embracing event. It will happen, I'm sure of it, but it's not my remit to say it will happen, but I feel fairly confident that there is direction to generate that activity, but I felt it appropriate that we wait for the new people to come on board.
Absolutely.
And it can be a huge learning day, huge team building day, however you in your previous professional life have come across days like that, maybe with a grimace or a smile, but that hopefully will make a big step.
But maybe something in place for future new candidates,
Well,
you know,
absolutely,
that come
but
into the council.
That sort of day is to, well, I actually found that quite helpful. Well,
Yes.
okay, we need to take that forward, so.
I'm glad you carried on with that, because I thought you were just going to say, I was really surprised when Steve got on the council. I was waiting.
Yeah, that's a bit.
Wendy, I know, I can't do it, but that was my plan.
Yeah, so I was,
Basic introduction type of thing.
I've actually already put it on the agenda for May,
Not
so
saying it would be agreed,
now
but that was
do training, but Ian Cruz-Taylor, who's the overall trainer for councils in our area, you can book yourself onto councillor training and be a better councillor, and the chairman's course, sorry, not actually chairman anymore. But what I did at my previous council is we actually paid for Ian to come into the council and deliver the training, because if there's more than 9 councillors, it works out cheaper doing it that way, and if councillors haven't got the training because we've been without a clerk or they didn't know about the training, we might have enough councillors to do it that way. I did send out an email to the new councillors today and copied all of the councillors in, because I did suspect that Steve wouldn't have had the greatest of starts because she came in when we didn't have an official clerk, and gave them some handbooks. So they've had, every councillor has now had the standing orders again, the financial regulations, good councillor's guide and the good councillor's guide to finance. So everyone's received that guidance today. So quite a bit of not so light reading.
Finished it?
It's on page 5. I'll ask a question in a minute if you're not careful.
Can I just ask one point? It's
Yes.
nothing major. You said you're waiting on the King's speech tomorrow. What happens if he doesn't say what you want him to say? I mean, what's your plan next after that? That's what I'm saying. If the King's speech doesn't help you out, what's your next plan?
You haven't got the legislation.
We'll be at the next branch meeting discussing different options that we can help advise councils, basically. There is a few clerks and a few MPs looking at going to London as well, so there is already stuff in the background. I can't say too much because
A little
I
bit
don't
of
want to.
that.
Sorry.
A little bit of that.
No, it's nice to know what, if there's something in place. You see what I mean? It's nice. I know you can't say anything, but it's nice for us to know there's something in place if it doesn't work out.
There's talk going in the background.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Okay, so I'll reopen the meeting and we move to agenda item 5. The minutes of the last meeting, which was on Wednesday the 1st of April. Oh, hang on a minute. 1st of April, March. Just that. 1st of April, it was 2026 at 8 o'clock. Everybody happy with the minutes? Can I have a proposer, please? Proposed by Councillor Johnson, seconded by Councillor Beardmore. Show of hands, all those in favour? Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to item 6, community centre maintenance update. The boiler needs servicing. The clerk is going to give us some quotes. The notice board has been installed. Roof leak and guttering should have been fixed the week beginning the 5th. I'll let you come back to that. And the curtains, reference, they're still hanging. I'm not going to say still standing. They're still hanging following the putting up. But we are trying to find detail about their purchase and whether they comply with fire regulations. So, did you want to add anything at this point?
Yes, please. So, I've heard back and the roof has been started. It just needs another coat and some more felt putting on. Like you say, with the curtains, because of their age, I'm just trying to find the purchase, because at a certain point it was that you didn't have to repeat the fireproofing. I've done fireproofing at the theatre that I worked with, so do know a little bit about this. I think we need to get quotes for both fireproofing and new curtains, because the fireproofing quote that I got at the theatre was over £500, and that was just for one set of theatre curtains, for them to be cleaned and sprayed. So it may be cheaper just to go for new curtains, which is why I've put on here fireproofing and new curtains, so we can have the options really. Because a quick look on the finance system, they are definitely more than 6 years old. So I've got to try and find something about them. If not, we're going to have to do something so that we're above board. In regards to the boiler service, I've asked 6 different places for quotes. 3 have already come back and said they've got no commercial contractors in the area. 2 haven't come back at all, and 1 has come back who actually did it last year. Now, I don't know why. I haven't asked a question because I didn't want to let on to this, but last year they charged us £350 plus VAT, but this year they're only quoting 240. So obviously I wasn't going to question why it's less money, in case he wanted to put it up. But he knows the 3 different systems that need to be serviced. So it's whether council want me to carry on getting a quote or to go ahead. The service was due the end of April, so we're not far out.
Well, we have used them and done repairs before, so I think from my point of view, having
Any other
everybody
comments?
else thinks.
As quick as possible.
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
I think, Chair, you have to have another.
So, well, I would say on the basis of, I'm not seeing this before now, but I'm eyeballing the numbers. My proposal would be that the clerk instructs the boiler service straight away with this gentleman that did it last year.